When I was younger, posters of the Boston skyline were plastered all over the walls in my room, something about the city it pulled me in. It was a portal of sorts, encapsulating many of the things I loved, right, my favorite sports teams. Where I saw some of my first concerts was the place where anything and everything happened as a young kid. It was representative of what life could be, the possibility. Now, I reference this now because my day-to-day is obviously more complex than it was then. My cognitive mapping of the world looks a lot different today than it did when I was 13. I've seen a lot of possibility become responsibility, and in many ways, that's just part of growing up, maturing. It's a great thing, but I also believe we are capable of walking and chewing gum at the same time. I think we're capable of being present and dreaming simultaneously, and when we let go of the latter, we forfeit something innately beautiful about our time on this planet. This thought was prompted by my looking around the house the other day. I'm realizing there's absolutely nothing on the walls that resembles that world, right? You'd never know it was the same person. There are no rock bands, there's no fast cars or cityscapes, not now. And the point is not that I need those things or even one. The point is, without a doubt, their existence symbolized a hope, a sense of excitement. Their presence reinforced that there is something fun and invigorating out there. They reminded me of the world's breadth beyond. Am I going to school and soccer practice? And I don't want to lose that. I don't want anyone to lose that. See, our imaginations shouldn't be inversely proportional to our age. Taking down the poster shouldn't leave a void that's never filled again. And I guess I wanted to pass that reminder along, just how much of life is unexplored. Simply because you've drawn parameters around yourself over the years and called it your day-to-day existence doesn't mean that's all there is, and you used to know that, right, when you hung posters and played with your friends. You used to know that we all did. What makes life incredible is that we are always one decision away from recapturing that magic. We've never gone too far to adjust the situation we aren't happy with. We're never too old to explore that idea that we've had in the back of our minds. We're never too far in to change direction or pick a new path. What you see around you isn't all there is. That's what we need to remind ourselves. In so many ways, reality isn't a set of instructions we have to adhere to. It's something we build, and when you stop dreaming, when you stop growing, you also stop building. When you stop building, you stop living. Maybe I don't hang those pictures on my wall anymore, but now I have the ability to actually physically step out my front door and immerse myself into the upside of life. We all do. If this world does anything, it extends its hand and invites us to step further into it. It asks us to remember that which has been tucked away in our imagination, to bring it to life one step at a time. Foreign people wait all week for Friday, all year for summer, and all their lives for happiness. In many respects, waiting is what humans do. We wait to start, or wait to stop, wait to go, or wait to leave. We wait and we wait and we wait, and in doing so full not time, but ourselves. That clock is going to tick away regardless of the IS we write to it. It will take those plans and dreams and ideas, and with its two hands carry them away. As part of their perpetual rhythmic march. See, one of the most dangerous words in our vocabulary is tomorrow. A concept illusion, a hesitance, that becomes oxygen to the eventual flame of regret. It becomes the stories we tell about what could have been. If only tomorrow arrived a little sooner. But the problem with waiting for tomorrow, as Jim Rohn has famously said, is that when it arrives, it's called today. Tomorrow is the box in which we place the things we've not yet found the courage to start. Want you to be that courageous. I want you to shop, to step out, to create momentum, knowing that your journey will be one of imperfection. But imperfect is how everything valuable begins. Perfect, on the other hand, what's perfect. Tomorrow is perfect. Ideas that never start, that contain no mistakes, are perfect. Wishing is perfect. Hoping is perfect. But capturing the beauty contained in today, that's not a perfection game. That's a willingness to start and adjust along the way. It's a commitment to begin now, so let's disarm tomorrow by making our magic today. By pointing directly at all those things you've been worried or scared or intimidated by and simply taking one step towards them. Rather than waiting for life to push you forward, walk yourself there. And let life react. We have so much to let go of, to dismiss. Ideas, narratives, they're not ours, not in our best interest anyway, yet we carry them around. Carry them around like we're perpetually tied to the lies they espouse, the fiction they propagate. We have to let go before we add a single thing, before we adopt another way. It all has to go. I don't remember where I've seen it, but I know I have, maybe cartoons when I was younger, but I'm imagining that character that is taking off their jacket or shirt, and there's always another one underneath it. Right, and they're like confused, frantically pulling off shirts, and more keep emerging. They had no idea how many layers they were carrying around with them, and funny enough, 20 years later I'd be thinking that we are no different. There are so many layers, and so many of them should be gone, should be left, should be confined to the dustbin of history. Those boundaries in your life, who set them? Who said this is as far as you can go? Who put that little fence around your world and asked that you stay obediently confined to its borders? Who said that what you have is all there is? Who said upside is too dangerous? Who said life is about predictability and routine, so stop asking questions? No one said those things, so hey, there's a start. Empty your pockets of the boundaries. They're making life heavy. What about yesterday? Might as well take off that backpack, tip it upside down and pour out the yesterday you made mistakes yesterday. But that's not today. You didn't like certain aspects of who you were yesterday. But that's not today either. Your friends, maybe family, maybe others in your life knew you to be someone you don't think you are, or someone you wish you weren't. Well, more breaking news. That was yesterday. Do you even realize you are still carrying around who you were yesterday on your back? Your next step has a lot to do with now, and very little to do with yesterday, so embrace and wave goodbye to those calendar pages you've already turned. That's the best move for everyone. Oh, and those concessions you make. You didn't think I'd forget those. You can't forget those. Unshackle them from your ankle. Those things you say. You're not ideal, but it's easier to live a lesser life with you in it than it is to go through the trouble of pushing you away. Perhaps the people that darken your light, the actions that you know are not you, the time exhausted living for someone else. Gone and gone. It has to go. And look, we all know life is tricky. It's hard to walk away from things so ingrained into our daily lives for so long, but let's play a game. Let's pretend it was, pretend life was that simple. Things I need to leave behind, A, B, and C. Well, that's definitely simple. Perhaps not easy, but simple. And now through this simplified lens you have a target to aim for, something to chip away at. You have your block of marble. Now comes the process of chiseling a little bit at a time, and that's the goal, is to not carry these things. Ends up meaning everything. Space no longer occupied by the wrong things. Create space for the right things. Knocking down what doesn't belong creates a platform to build what does. So onward we must go, not falling into the trap of pointing at externality, blaming the world for our confinement, but instead understanding that we have been, perhaps without even realizing it, taking our confinement with us, in our pockets, on our back, trailing behind our every step, a subtle resistance. And when it goes, we can finally grow, we can become more. So what can you do now to live a life that's more meaningful, that's more true to yourself? Well, you can start by doing less of what weighs you down. Human beings don't see, we interpret. We don't take in what happens, we take in the implication of what happens. Everything in our world is story. Is it similar to the idea of two ideologically different news organizations, right, reporting on the same event? Neither will be completely factual. They'll both uphold their individual narratives. They're not black and white. They're interpreting gray space, and our individual lives are no different. We are our own broadcasting channels, using data to support our individual narratives. See, we know what this story is going to say before the story occurs, because we will make it, so we'll make life fit our beliefs. That's what it means to be human, so here's where the value lives in the context of this message. When we find ourselves in a consistent state of despair or frustration or anxiety, it's a fool's errand to look for solutions in the external world, because everything we find, everything we come across will support our current beliefs, our current story. That's what we'll keep playing in our heads, and it's why money can't bring fulfillment and another person can't take you from incomplete to content. It's why status will never equate to happiness. Those acquisitions are like putting premium fuel in a car with a broken engine. It's just not the answer that we hoped it would be. To change your world, you must change your story, whatever it is that needs to be changed. The location, the objective, the characters, may be the journey altogether. But it's the neural network behind your eyes that must change, not the detail it takes in. And so if you feel stuck or feel like where you want to be seems unrealistic, you have to know right now that the very fact. So ask yourself, not your girlfriend or your boss or your neighbor, but ask yourself what a turnaround looks like. Do you know? Or have you acclimated to being unhappy? Have you even asked yourself what happiness looks like? Or is your personal broadcasting channel so hell-bent on ensuring your life outlook stays the way it is that it's not even paying attention to the data it takes in? See, I believe wholeheartedly that the first step in any facet of transformation is remembering that you have control, that things in your life that bring you down or hold you back can be changed. In fact, the very things working against you can work for you, but you have to be aware. You have to think about it. Now, I'm not a believer in magic, right? I don't think you sit back, say, I don't want to be unhappy ever again, snap your fingers and smile until the end of eternity. But I do believe that once we're aware of our manufactured shackles and our self-imposed limitation, we can start chipping away, doing the 1, 2 or 3 small things every day, tiny swings at the tree until it falls. Right? If it's I'm not happy with my work life, well, what does a better situation look like? What bridges that gap? I'll wake up 20 minutes earlier on weekdays and master Microsoft Excel. I'll send one message on LinkedIn asking an expert about the field I want to move into. I'll read 20 pages a day in a book related to business. You think those things were small? See what they look like compounded in a year. Not only that, this is the most important part, you are taking the power back. You're taking control, and that's what feels good. That's where we get our identity. You get a little disappointed at how you've let your physique slip when you look in the mirror. Don't be sad about it every day. Again, ask yourself what the inverse looks like and start doing small things. Subtract 1 sports drink and add 1 green smoothie. Double your water intake. Do a 10-minute daily workout on YouTube. Like this, the pieces are out there, and to find yourself again is to realize that they're out there. Realize that you are playing a movie on loop in your head that isn't right. It's just not you. And well, what movie do you want to be playing in an ideal world? Scroll through the library, find it, click play, and start doing the small things that make it real. There's so much power in progress. I've seen this unfold in different areas of my life, but particularly as a writer. As a speaker, it's like you identify who you want to be, you start making tiny steps, and after a while you are surrounded by the change that you've created. How can you not believe something that you're starting to live? It has to become your identity because it is you, it's around you, you breathe it. So look around and realize the malleability of your situation. And if what you find is not you, good, here is your opportunity to tear down the old and construct the new. You can do that because you have control, because it's within your grasp. So start the new movie, the new story, make yourself the hero, and set out to find yourself again. Of all life's lessons, it's my relationship with what it means to suffer that's transformed my reality. Something that's learned, not unlike one's ability to read or write. An understanding that unlocks the door to fulfillment. Nietzsche says to live is to suffer, to survive is to find meaning in the suffering. Dostoevsky says pain and suffering are always inevitable for a large intelligence and deep heart. The really great men must, I think, have great Sadness on Earth. Helen Keller says although the world is full of suffering, it's also full of the overcoming of it. Our problem is not that we suffer. Our problem is that we don't know how to perceive it when it inevitably arrives. We're taught that it's synonymous with a giant street sign saying wrong way. We're taught that the perfect life is free of its grasp. It's why when suffering does arrive, we're so inclined to run from it. I reference my experience as a D1 rower. Often not because I stood out or even really because of my love for the sport. I referenced it because it is the point in my life when I learned to suffer, when I learned what I could put my body through, my mind through, and see that like all things, discomfort simply ends. And life is different on the other side. That's why I talk about waking up to go to the gym in the morning when it's still dark in the middle of winter. The practices that made me throw up, having 3 exams, 2 papers, but thinking about a 2K test. Because part of me couldn't believe I was doing it, because up until that point in my life, I would have simply said no. That's why I reference the 3 of us walk-ons that were their senior year out of this 60 plus that showed up freshman year. We built a relationship with suffering. You understand what opens up to you when you agree to, for a moment in time, walk through those flames of hell. It's not a trick or a complex formula. It's just taking yourself to places most haven't learned to go, not because they can't, but because they haven't learned when you know you can push yourself far beyond what you thought possible. Not only survive, but come back renewed, re-energize, the different understanding of the world. It's hard to see anything is too much or outside the realm of possibility. In my personal life, I can make difficult decisions. In my professional life, I can sit down and write when I don't want to. When I feel like I can't, I can take on projects that scare me, that take me so far outside my comfort zone. My ceilings have no choice but to become floors. You elevate yourself with eggs. Gustav Lanson says there is no art without commitment and suffering. That is not a demon to be avoided. It's truly the beginning of everything. Jocko, he says, discipline equals freedom. Of what is discipline if not one's ability to accept and harness suffering? To teach yourself not to step back but forward into it, into the chaos, into the disarray. That's where our lives are assembled. It's where we are made. And so my message is, where you would once say no, dare to say yes, even if it's a footstep, a moment, one toe in the water. Teach yourself that the very discomfort you've been running away from, that most run away from, will be the reason your life transforms. Change isn't a miracle, it's a decision. Foreign 1519, Hernan Cortez arrived on the shores of Mexico with roughly 600 Spaniards, all of whom quickly realized that a mighty empire waited for them not too far inland. In Cortez, inspired by Spain's current golden age and the encompassing sense of ambition and adventure that gave life to the whole journey to the New World, he pushed his men forward into the unknown, ordering them, as Winston Reynolds writes in Hispania, to destroy the ships behind them, symbolizing the valiant pushed forward with no return. Everything would be on the line, and over the years this act has become folklore, evolved into the famous phrase we all know, burn the boat. Burn the boat. Why is this an important idea? Well, I look at it in very simple terms. Doing anything meaningful is hard. Not planning on it or hoping to do it, but actually doing it. And when you're in the heat of metaphorical battle, right when you're on your way, facing the adversity and the challenges and the hardships, whether it's social, physical, or mental, that growth comes with discomfort. Our instinct is to want out when we are in pain. Our brain's default is, how do I stop the pain? And what I've learned is that if you give yourself off-ramps, you'll take them. If you allow for a plan B, it will become more and more appealing. If the mentality is give it your all until it's inconvenient, well, we all know what happens, right? Since excellence doesn't allow for skipping the inconvenience. When you can't turn around and get back on those boats, you are forced to create outcomes, because suddenly everything depends on it. Is this mindset come easy? No, I don't believe it does. Took me into my mid-20s to realize, hey, I've never done anything without a life raft or a safety net. I Always carry an option B, C and D around with me in my pocket. And the result was above average at plenty of things. Was great at none, but when your back is to the wall and those demons are closing in, it's incredible what you can do, which you can create. You will shock yourself with your competence and your ability. Waiting to be unlocked now. I'm not saying keep jamming this square peg in the round hole if you know something's not for you. I'm simply saying if there is something you want, something that you know in your soul is pulling you in, and you really want to see that thing come to fruition, you can't have pre-made off-ramps for yourself, and the inevitable difficulty comes in because it always does. I refer to those moments as checkpoints, areas of internal deliberation, high security guarded gates where many arrive, but few get to pass through. Not because they couldn't, but because the cost of access was expensive, too expensive mentally, physically and socially expensive, taxing. Most simply say no thanks. They get back on that boat waiting for them by the shore they arrived on and return to the world they've always known. The way I see it, this is not about right or wrong. No, that's missing the point entirely. I see the question being, how bad do you want it? A little, a lot? How about enough to go all in? Because if you want to see levels of yourself you never thought possible, you need to kick the ladder down behind you. Force yourself to rise to the occasion amidst the chaos. Map your path straight into the darkness of night. Not because it's the most convenient, but because you gave yourself no other choice. You burned the boat and are content to watch their flames slowly disappear behind you as you go where few have gone.